Hello, all, and welcome to the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Coolbaugh. Today, I have me a very special guest, Adam Newman. Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you so much for reaching out and coming on. Anytime I can get people in multiple industries and, chat with them about their experiences, I think it gives me some great ideas. It gives other people, some good ideas on maybe some things they haven't considered before. So I tend to go outside genre or go outside. And I originally started in like art and like working on some comics and stuff like that. So, and like multiple genres. So I think I have a little bit different experience. Some other people use a lot of technology and stuff at my job. And I don't know. I guess I always think a good idea is a good idea. So I know it's a
Sure.
good way to apply it. So I appreciate you coming in today and talking to us about your expertise. And I just want to let everybody know, don't forget that you can actually find all of Adam's all of his links in the description, anywhere where you are watching and listening to this podcast. But we'll start right there with that first question there, Adam. What has your filmmaking journey been like up until this point?
It's been insane. I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would do it all over again if I knew it was going to go exactly the way that it did. I've been making movies now for about 20 years. I
Oh, wow,
started.
that's great.
Yeah. So I started right out of high
Cool.
school. I thought I was going to be a playwright. Originally, I thought I was going to be a novelist. It started becoming kind of clear back when I was 18 years old when I saw the movie Magnolia that I was going to make a
Nice.
yeah, that I was going to make movies, which is fitting because Paul Thomas Anderson's new movie comes out today.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, and so it's been up and down and all over. I didn't go to film school. I just kind of started shooting right away, and because I graduated high school in 2006, and so back then YouTube wasn't as nearly as big of a thing as it is now, and so
True that.
yeah, nobody really knew how to make movies, and I didn't know that you could even make short films. So I started right away with features. I made a feature when I was 20
Oh, wow.
years old for $100 basically, and it was over
Wow.
2 hours. Yeah, it's a mess. And ever since then, it's been up and down and all over. And I mean that in both the best and worst of ways. I've made over six
Oh, I know.
features. Yeah, yeah. As artists, it's
Yeah.
you have dry spells and then you have really, really productive spells. And I've made well over six features now.
Wow.
We have with two separate companies and more than six shorts as well. So it's been a lot. And now I'm finally in a place where this is what I'm getting paid to do full time. So
Sweet.
yeah, it's been wild. But I guess I wouldn't change it. We're getting things made, which is the most important thing, and it's the
Yeah.
hardest thing. You
Yeah.
you know, as an artist, writing is an animal in its own, and then getting a film project off the ground and finding funding and getting it out the birth canal. It's just a lot of stuff, but
Yeah.
obviously, it's like air to me. It's like food. It's like water. It's essential. If not, I would give up on it. So yeah, it's been crazy, but I guess I can't imagine doing anything else.
No, I totally get that. It's so funny that you mentioned that because I've talked on with other film crews and stuff and directors, and it's so funny that you mentioned that because I totally get it because I was I teach martial arts, right? I've trained for years in a bunch of different styles. So I had just seen I went to my hometown like, and then I had moved back to like Michigan State University, and then I don't know where I saw it, but guys I knew from the community, right, my hometown, were like doing this short film, like indie film. And they had actually done pretty well for like a 35-minute like short film at a couple of indie like festivals and stuff. Like they like got second place, third place, a couple first place, trophies and stuff or whatever. And it was so interesting. And they wanted to do like a martial arts comedy. And I thought, man, that's really cool. So I contacted them and then I actually went on with them and I trained people for free, but I thought, oh, I'll use it as like a resume builder. It was an amazing experience. Like it was super cool. But I got the bug then, I guess you could say, because I always wanted to do film and
Sure.
yeah, and like it was really cool. But it took like 7 years. Like we had made it, and then they had to keep finding funding, right? And then it finally came out, and I was a little disappointed because I had done so many, we had fought for like 3 hours. I ended up being like the main fight scene, right? And I fought against my friend, the director, and who we were going, and I was like kind of disappointed because like they didn't use some of the better fight scenes. And my friend goes, the shots didn't turn out well enough, or the audio, whatever, like something was
Yeah.
messed up. I was like, oh my gosh. So I totally get it. Cause I was like, this was kind of underwhelming. I was like, I wish we could go back and do it. People would be like, what's up with this guy? He's like old now. Right? We'd have to like reshoot all the scenes and stuff. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was cool. Yeah, yeah. It was interesting too because I actually was about to sell a screenplay in high school.
Mm.
And it was hard, right? Because here you are, like a 17-year-old kid, and my drama teacher got me hooked up with this guy, and he was like, they're gonna pay you like $7,000. And I was like, dang, right? When I was making 525 an hour, I was
Yeah,
like, this
it's
is awesome.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he goes, and people always like ask me, like, what's your biggest mistake? I'm like, this is it, right? Because I'm like, I should have just taken the money and gotten the experience and, like learned something from it. He goes, they're gonna change like everything. I already talked to the agent. And I'm like, what? So I was like really miffed because I was 17. I was like, this is the perfect story. So it wasn't that great. I
Yeah.
should have just taken
Yeah.
the 7 grand, went to
Yeah.
college,
Yeah.
and just I could have had it, right? So I always tell people like I love film, but I don't know if it always has loved me, I guess. Like, or maybe I'm just not good at it. But yeah, it's I love movies. I love anything that,
Sure.
yeah, like the process too of just the camera work and just the technology that went into it. I like help teach certain things, the beginning pieces, right, of those
Mm.
things. And
Hmm.
it's just like it's always just like fascinated me, just the technology aspect. Like I used to watch
Sure.
the Star Wars extended cuts, just for the director's cuts, like how they did stuff. That was like I think one of the greatest franchises for helping to, just like build the film industry just with technology. So, and
Oh,
different
certainly.
techniques. So yeah, it was super cool. But that's awesome. Um, and then what genres have you worked in within the film industry?
Everything. We try to
Awesome.
bounce around. I love all movies. The movie that I'm getting prepared to make now, I'm about a year out from shooting it, is a fantasy film. Which is one of the reasons why, got in touch with you. I know how
Yeah,
much you,
yeah.
you guys care about that, but I've also worked in, my last movie before this was a creature feature. And the one before that
Great.
was kind of like Chasing Amy, but with a monster at the end. And then
That's
uh
awesome.
yeah, and then before that we did a sci-fi romance that takes place in a bar and has a Jackie Chan fight scene in it.
That's cool.
Before that it was a slow burn, tense house drama. Before that it was kind of like a crime movie. I like to bounce all around when it comes to genre. I like almost all of them. I watch so many different films. It depends on what I'm making, is what, I'm
Yeah.
kind of, trying to tune my ear to. Um, but yeah, overall, I just want to jump around. And whenever I make something, the next time I want to do something completely different. If we're going to make something lighter, I want to go something darker, and then, vice versa, just jumping all around. So I love all movies. I love all genres. The only thing I might not touch is, I'm not wild about period pieces or anything like that. I just don't have a lot of historical knowledge. So, but I'll watch them,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I always want to make more stuff in all the different genres.
Oh, that's cool. I love historical. I teach history, right? Like I've been
Sure.
classically trained at Michigan State as like a historian and stuff, and I've been trying to teach my kids these things, right? And they're like,
Mhm.
"You probably love these movies," and they're just sub. I'm like, it's really hard when you know what's going to happen, right? And when you know certain
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
And there, whatever the one like, what is his name? Matt Damon was in, right?
Mm.
Where his wife allegedly like had an affair with this other
Oh,
nobleman.
Last Duel. Yeah, yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah.
Great movie, right? There are
Hmm.
some things in it that were kind of cringe for me because I was like, ooh, like, it's like hard, right? Because you
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
like you already know him. And I was like, ooh, but I thought it was a great movie.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was like I had to like suspend my, it's kind of
Oh,
like Fast
sure.
and Furious 18, right? You have to suspend your disbelief, and I
Yeah.
have to just pretend. I pretend it's a historical fantasy, if that makes sense. But that's
Absolutely.
why I tend to like historical fantasy more because they tend to get the things, the details and things right, but they also
Sure.
do something, creative with it. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
yeah. I totally get that though with the period piece. It gets hard for me at times, but I
Sure,
have to
sure.
ask just because you brought it up. Have you watched The Count of Monte Cristo, that like remake from the 2000s with oh, what's his name?
Jim Caviezel.
Jim Caviezel. Yeah,
Yeah, so I have seen that movie. I don't know, 100 times. Funnily enough,
such a good movie.
it's so good. I saw it in the theater. The first time I saw it was in the
I did
theater.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did too.
and
Yeah.
right before, I believe Mercedes at one point comes to him and is like, "Give up the revenge and let's just run away." And right at that moment, the film caught on fire while I was, yeah.
That's crazy.
And so like we didn't have the resolution. They gave us all the free tickets and stuff like that, which is, it's no, it's absolutely
Crazy.
wild. It's wild, but yeah, no. The Count of Monte Cristo, the one with Jim Caviezel, is it's been a rewatchable. Yeah, I watch it
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
time. I think it's so good. I know that the a French version just came out last year and was the biggest
Yeah.
movie in France, and I haven't
Yep.
watched it yet because it's 3 hours.
I didn't get you.
Yeah,
Yep.
but I'm definitely going to, because I love the Count of Monte Cristo. I
Yeah.
love a good old school revenge story. I love all the
Yeah.
stuff
That
at the
book is
Chateau
great.
Cave. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
like yeah, no, totally stoked about that movie. Really good bring up right there because yeah, no, I think more people need to watch Count of Monte Cristo. It's so
Yeah,
good,
yeah,
you know.
and I just and like I get Jim Caviezel's kind of a character now for different
Yeah,
reasons, but
yes,
like
yes, very true.
but like it's so interesting because a lot of people know that Henry Cavill played his son. I believe that's Henry Cavill's first movie.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
he
my
played his son
God, I
at
didn't even think
at the
about that.
end.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
when he's like a teenager and he tries,
Yeah.
yeah. And then what's his name? Like Guy Fawkes or whatever his name, right? Like
Guy
the
Pearce.
villain. Guy Pearce, thank you.
Yeah, he's
I always
incredible
do
in
that.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like incredible. He actually had like a sci-fi that was like he's like a sci-fi action where he had to like go rescue some people from like a moon space station in like a future dystopia, and he did an amazing job. I was
I'm
like,
in.
usually he's a villain,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
I was
it
gonna
was
say,
it was really good. He did
yeah,
it.
yeah.
He's such a great actor. He did an
He
amazing
really
job,
is.
and then the technology in it, like sci-fi wise, like it really made you think, like, holy
Mm,
crap! It really like brought a lot of themes of like the prison system and like a lot of enduring issues and stuff. I
sure.
highly recommend it. I'm like totally blanking on
I
what it's
should go.
called, but
Yeah.
if you just look him up and
Yeah,
sci-fi,
I definitely.
like yeah,
Definitely will. Like he crosses over into sci-fi too because
yeah,
he's in probably the worst of the Alien movies, but he's in Prometheus and and
yeah,
with a whole
yeah,
bunch of makeup on. So no, he clearly loves
yeah,
the guy who loves
yeah,
genre, and you can tell, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I like have tried my I interviewed Scott Sigler on here for season two, so he'll be earlier in the season, but like he actually wrote a post-Alien book, where it's like
Oh.
Roman Legion and Alien. And like that sounds amazing, right? So I started buying a lot of Alien books. Him and I talked about it, but like Alien Earth when it came out, like I have been struggling. Shogun, awesome, right?
Sure.
But it's like it's hard for me to watch my kid because it's so loud with Hulu, right? Hulu just drives me nuts with their audio because it's
Yeah.
too loud for the music, and then
Yeah,
I
it's
can't
just too
hear them,
soft for
right?
the dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And with my
Yeah.
son when he's sleeping, that's usually I watch stuff. So it's like
Yep.
even with headphones, it's like kind of annoying. So I got to figure out something. But yeah, like Alien Earth, I started to watch it, and it was like the beginning was just slow, like
I'm
so
having
slow.
trouble with it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But my friends were all like, who I trust, right? We're like, you gotta get to here. And I'm usually a 3 episode person. That's like my 50 to 60 page, mark in like a 300
Sure.
page book. But yeah, I was like, I love Alien. I'm like, I just gotta get to the aliens,
Yeah.
I think. But it's been a little hard. So, but I get it's like season one and stuff. But yeah, I heard a lot of the things they did later was like amazing. A couple of my friends who are authors just
Yeah.
like loved like the
I've only
last
gotten
two
into two
episodes. So
episodes. I've only gotten into
yeah,
2 episodes, and
yeah,
I kind of feel the same way that you did. I'm like, why? When is it going to be great? Like everybody
yeah,
is saying, you know.
yep,
And TV's
yep,
tough because I have less patience. I'm typically about 2 episodes, and I'll give you two. And
yeah.
if you can get me in, then I'm good. And if not, it's tough to trust you, you know.
Like I totally get like I just was talking about this with another author the other day, last week, and I totally get right. And I criticize a lot of people, right, who criticize different shows for a season, right? Like I was surprised that people weren't really loving the beginning of Daredevil Born Again. I thought they
Mm,
did such a great job the first like 7.5 episodes. The last three, they were like this, and I was like, what's
mm,
going on? And then they kind of just like dipped so quick for the second half of the episode for the final one, and the finale could have been great, right? So I'm like, okay, but I'm like, you had me the rest of the time, and they had so many great themes and so many great
hmm.
shots that they actually took from the comics, and I think a lot of people don't know that, right? So maybe they didn't have as much patience, but I thought it was great here. But like I always tell people, like it's 10 episodes, right? Like it's a story arc, right? But like I do still think that you still have to keep something in each episode, right? And
Oh,
I just
sure,
felt like
yeah.
it's like kind of, and then they're just gonna go up. Like I don't know. So
Mm,
I did think it was really interesting, but
mm.
that's like Rings of Power season two. Like my friends were all like, "Oh, the ending was great." I'm like, the beginning's not so great. Like enjoyed the beginning of the first
Sure.
one
Yeah, yeah.
because like you had this amazing elf character, right, or like Ranger. He's just like doing stuff, and you're finding this mystery. But then yeah, like I always think it's good, right, to talk about these things for writers,
Oh,
in
certainly.
different categories, right? Yeah, to like what not to do to an audience. Like,
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah, that's kind of how I am right now in some of
Yeah,
these
yeah.
shows. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, I try to be patient, but it's kind of hard.
It's tough,
That's really
yeah.
funny. Well, speaking of different stories, what types of stories or mediums do you like to incorporate into your films? And are there any particular styles that you enjoy the most? So basically, like, what are you doing? What do you like?
Oh God, that's so tough to say.
I know,
I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
yeah, it's like it sounds. Obviously, I make films, so the things that I think about the most are visual. It's typically what's the most you can do with a visual. With you just mentioned with books and TV series too, especially. you have more time. You have more time. And so my thing is always, what can you do the most with one shot? What can you do the most with one scene? Me and my editing partner are big about, hey, can this scene do two things? And it's better if it can do three, and it's better if it can do four. Those are the things, like, how efficient can you be when it comes to that? And then in terms of the stories that I tend to like to digest, I like things for the most part that are very subjective, more so than objective. I like things that are very character based, very people based. This is why I tend to have trouble with stuff like made by Kubrick and stuff like that. They doesn't connect with me most of the time because I feel like at such a distance, and I have a hard time really getting into a story if I'm not being presented a character. I don't need to like the character. I actually prefer unlikable characters. I think they're potentially more interesting, but I need to be able to understand them. I need to be able to get into their headspace, and whether or not I agree with their decisions, I have to understand that why they did it. So I think that's, hopefully that kind of answers some of the questions.
I think that makes total sense, and I'm like totally blanking right now because it's a Friday and I'm a dad, and it was a long week. But I know there was like several. I just keep thinking of like older movies on TV, but there are like several that I'm like had thought about recently where I'm like, because I do character studies, right? I'm like, okay, I'll go to Firefly. I'll be like, why does everybody like Mal so much, right? Why does everybody like Jane so much? Again, he's not always a likable character, right? But he's still interested.
Never. Yeah,
almost never,
exactly.
but he's still interested, and you still want him to succeed, right? It's like, well, why? Like, and speaking of somebody controversial like Joss Whedon, right? But like, it's interesting, right? Like, well written, right? And then you also think like every single character in that show was well written, also from a different perspective. And I think it's one of the greatest cast of characters that anybody has ever put together that has written something personally, because there's every single character that I'm like River's really cool, her brother's got a lot going on, but it's like Kaylee is really interesting. Like, why is she able to talk to a ship this well? When she was from a backwater, it's almost like her superpower, right? But it's like everybody's got something, and I just think it's really interesting. And then even the secondary characters or villains, right? Like that one where they get taken on the space station, right? Like Nathan Fillion and Wash or whatever, like, and now like they get taken, right? Like there's so many great lines like that in itself, right? Could have been a movie, right? That episode.
Oh
And
yeah,
I think they wrote episodic so well. So I totally get what you're saying, but like the first, few scenes, you're already like, these characters are interesting, right?
Yeah.
And as each one pops up, they just get more interesting. So I totally agree. I think that, and I'm like, that show, it's like, can you really tell me, other than Rivers thing, right? Like them protecting her, like, and they make money, right? Like that's got to be one of the least like developed story arcs, you know what I mean, in a first season, but still have such a full richness, if that makes sense. So.
Because I think it's like you just said, which is that they investigated every episode as if it was his own individual thing, and it doesn't feel like it's being stretched thin, which what I'm very suspicious about with television is it's like, oh, you're just stretching this out to take my money, and I start to get really suspicious of that quickly. Whereas with Firefly, like you just said, they draw really interesting characters and interesting arcs over episodes, so that, like you said, you feel like you're getting a nutritious story every time you get one. And then my hope is that they were setting up for long, obviously. All right.
Oh, no, totally. Yeah.
You feel it. If you can, I'm far more forgiving if you don't get every plot element, as long as you give me character. And what you just said about Jane is so good, because he is such a jerk. He really is. And then there's the moment where he's about to get dropped out of the airlock, and he says the line, I have stolen so many, I just want to use it in everything I do, which is like, what are you going to tell him? Mal says, I don't know. And he says, lie to him. And because you can tell that, oh my God, Jane cares about what other people think about him. And and he says the money was too good, which is just I didn't want to do this, but there is a line for me. And so I think it's a really good note, and also just way to bring up Firefly, because it really is. It's so good. It's good.
But that scene too, where he's like, oh man, I just lost it. But yeah, but he was like, oh no, he's like, you didn't do it to them, Jane. You did it to me.
To me,
me. Yeah, that scene I have studied so many times, just character-wise. Yeah.
Next time you want to stab me in the back, do it to my face.
Exactly. But there's so many lines like that. Like the one, right, where I love where they like him and what's her name? Like meet their old army buddy, right? And like if you
Oh yeah,
can't
Zoe. Yep.
walk, you crawl, and if not, somebody else will carry you, whatever. Like just
Yep.
like that
It's
one
so
alone,
good. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when like people are like they're trying to help, like the two of them carry the body, and they're like, nope, we got it, like. It was just like both times. It's like the beginning of the episode, the end of the episode, they say that. So to me, it was like there was like so many little nuances that like, but yeah,
Even
talk
the
about like
even the
character
worst
development.
even the worst episodes of Firefly are better than the best episodes of any show that there are, just because of stuff
Yep,
like you just said.
yep,
Every single one of them is being treated as its own individual story that just happens to be an
yep,
hour long. It could have been 90 minutes long.
yeah.
It's really impressive stuff. Joss Whedon's obviously a controversial character, but for a time he really understood how to write character.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, yeah, and that's like I was we were discussing that where I have like certain enduring issues and stuff with some of my older
Sure.
kids and somebody brought him up like Neil Gaiman and Joss Whedon. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, I was like, you could still be good at things and not be good at other things, right? Or be
Yes,
a good
exactly.
person. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was always like really interesting. But it was so interesting to me that like they knew about these older, creators
Mm,
and stuff. But
sure.
yeah, but it was interesting. But it's like I will say Star Wars and people will be staring at me in my class. But then if I say Firefly, they're like, oh yeah. And it's like
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
so great to hear, though.
isn't
Yeah,
that crazy?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
so good.
But I think
Sure.
it's because of when it came out, right? So a
Mm,
lot of their parents are like right at my age, like 38, 40, that kind of thing.
sure.
And
Weird
it's
to
like,
think of. I'm in that age
I know,
bracket too.
right?
Yeah.
I remember being a senior and it came out and I was so busy working like my butt off, right, for college.
Mm,
But my friends, like they made a real point to like they were all still hanging out and I was just kind of doing my thing. So like we would go do stuff, but like they would all still hang out and like watch Firefly. So then
mm,
right before we all went to college, I remember the day too. Like we all sat down and we didn't really have anything to do, right? We're like, we're about to all like they were going to the same college. I was like staying in town and saving up and stuff, go to community college because I know what I want to do. I don't want to waste money, right? So
sure.
but yeah, I remember we watched Firefly and just sat there and did like a LAN party for RuneScape. And I had to stop playing RuneScape because I was like, this show is dope. And everybody else had already seen it like a million times.
Sure,
So, but it
sure.
was like, it was super cool. But I go back to that one. Yeah, like there's like quite a few. I still think The Two
Mm.
Towers has to be one of the greatest, um, like story arcs, just with that movie.
Say your favorite Lord of the Rings?
That yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And like
Okay.
it's like I love the Return of the King, but like it just doesn't have the
Well,
oomph to me.
I'm a fellowship guy.
Okay.
Fellowship
See,
is
I totally get
my
that though,
yeah.
because for me it's like it's so close because it's like it's so hard for me. Lately I've
Mm,
been more, I'd say like I go back and forth every 3 years. But yeah,
sure.
the Return of the King, I was just like, but like Brandon Sanderson made a good point in his BYU lectures. He said they tried to do the same thing, right, by saving the characters, but like Gandalf worked, right? Because he says, "Look for me on the fourth day at
Mhm,
dawn," whatever, and look to the east, right? Well,
mhm.
that worked though because it set it up, and then you forget about it, and then he
Comes back.
comes and saves the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
then he makes a good point because they tried to do it again and it was just like that scapegoat thing. He's like, but they didn't really like set it up for a reason. They just kind of, oh, we're gonna go over here. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, like it didn't like hit as well. So for me, that's
Sure.
like definitely like even with the Hobbits, like for me, it's like that one's like
Yeah, I think
it's
the three. I think Return of the King is
just
still
that.
great, but
No, it's great.
I
Yeah,
do
yeah.
think it's the weakest of the three. I agree.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I bring it up because talk about character is like again, I think people enjoy those, even like Arwen, right? Like she's barely in it,
Yep.
the fellowship. But
Yep.
I was like, when she popped up, I was like, this is like, other than Aragorn, I was like, this is the coolest character. Like, sorry, Gandalf,
Sure.
but I was like, she was really dope with the river. And
Yeah.
we never found out how she did, and I
Yeah.
was like, this is awesome. And she was like, yeah, you will not claim him. I was like, she was like, let's do this thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
Aragorn just kind of struggled. And here, she's like, I'm gonna just wreck you. And I
Yeah.
felt like she could. So for me, like even those little characters, Elrond was great. I mean, they had great actors, don't get me wrong,
Yeah,
but
of
I think
course.
that like the characters themselves with how they were written were just awesome. So I definitely
I
agree with
agree.
you personally. I think
Yeah.
I think character development and yeah, like TV shows, they can be great, right? But I don't really
Mm.
watch them for the plot anymore. I watch them for the character. So
Yeah, you want to feel like you're part of something, especially if you're going to devote that much time, you know?
and I'm sorry, I'm just stuck on this because this is one of my character studies. But that conversation between Matt Murdock and the Punisher, if
Mm.
anybody's seen it from Daredevil Born Again, you gotta watch it just to get to this speech, right? And like, oh my gosh, John Barenthal, these guys were just ripping each other in the scene. and it's some of the best writing I've seen from Disney. It actually gave me hope for a lot of the things that I have not liked, where I was like, if you can do this, even though, like I said, I had some problems with the end of the show, but like there was some writing in there, and like, yeah, I don't want to give it away, but like you got to watch it, just at least to that point. It
Sure.
was,
I was gonna say I haven't seen any of it. I don't.
oh,
I'm not a big comic book guy.
oh man, the original
Yeah,
Daredevil though on Netflix, the shots
I've heard it's
alone,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the court. I went back and watched that before. I was on like I got done like halfway through season two. I'm gonna go back and then start watching Daredevil Born again. But it got me like hyped for the show. But yeah, there were so many things I was like, just like yeah, just like film wise, I was like, these are. I went back. I was like, no wonder I liked this show so much. It was really cool
Yeah.
with how they did it.
Sure,
But
sure.
speaking of which, what are some of your aspirations in the industry? I understand everybody wants to get rich, famous, and stuff, but like, what are your aspirations like just in general?
Well, getting rich is, that'd be nice. But I don't really even consider it. It's movie making. It's very, very unlikely. I want to get to a place where I can just make things and get everybody involved with it
Like
paid.
that.
I would love to get to a place where I don't have to do every single aspect of pre and post.
That's fair.
I don't edit anymore, which I'm very happy. I
Okay.
hate editing. I hate editing. I do a lot of producing now.
Oh,
Not,
cool.
like not only just my own stuff, but like other people's stuff, especially because I had a
Oh, cool.
movie last that got into theaters. And so everybody kind of thinks you have the special sauce when that happens. I don't. It's really just like frustrating amounts of work and being creative about how to find money. I would like to get to a place, I make things that are in the ULB range, which is $300,000 and under. We pressed up right against that number. I'd like to be able to make stuff in the millions. And when I say that, it's not because um, it's screaming for. It's because I want to make bigger things. I want to make things that have
Yeah.
more days of shooting. That would be great. I would like to continue to build off of that. So when I think about budget, it's not in terms of budget. It's in terms of scope.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're talking right now. We're talking about science fiction and fantasy stuff, and those things can be more expensive.
Expensive.
Yeah, I would love to. So I'd love to do. I'd love to make a TV show. There's stuff I would love to adapt. I'd love to adapt. I really want to adapt. Final Fantasy War of the Lions. Always wanted to make that into a TV show.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be really awesome. For a long time, I really wanted to do a Star Wars movie. Those would all be really, really fun.
Yeah.
I have like a really, really batshit idea for a Wolverine movie,
That's cool.
which is kind of sad. But really,
Calling Marvel. Calling Marvel.
yeah,
Thank you,
please,
Marvel.
please. It's called Detective Logan, and
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, it would be like a noir. I've just started like playing around with the
That's
idea,
dope.
at least. Yeah,
That's cool.
but ultimately, biggest thing is I want to be able to continue make things for bigger budgets, so because they can be bigger in scope and I can have more days to shoot them, whether they be. I still want to make dramas. I want to make a movie about tennis players because I'm a big tennis guy. I want to make movies I really love dirtbag crime stories. I love stuff like that. Anything that can get me just a little bit more scope so that I can get everybody paid and we can shoot these things longer and we can add more
Yeah.
artistic elements because we're shooting movies for, 14, 18 days and you just end up you're talking about all the great shots on Daredevil. And it's like, I know what you mean, but like we fight so many wars every day going like, all right, today you get one good shot and then everything else you got to get coverage so that we can just make sure this movie exists. So that's the biggest thing is making sure that I'm always in a place. I'm going to do this until I die. I'm very aware of that. I can't retire from this. So it's just making sure that I can keep the engine going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you said that because I have so many people that are like, I don't know, they're like talking about retiring. I'm like, I'm just like trying to begin my real career.
Yeah.
I've been teaching. I've been doing teaching. I've been working in public schools, even if it was unpaid, since I was 19. I just turned 38, so it's like half my life,
Oh,
right?
we're close to the same age. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
It's a fun period.
yeah, I'm like, even if I taught till I retired, I'm like, I have to do this now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like I've met too many great people. I've done too many great things. This is my 5th year. It's like, I'm like, cool. And that was like Scott Sigler, like he's got his podcast. They've been running for 20 years. Like they
Wow.
they have like, yeah, they have like a Spotify and like
Mm.
award and like record thing. I'm like, that's cool.
Mm.
But yeah, like, yeah, I can't imagine not writing till I die. Like no matter what it is, right?
If
Like, I'm like, yeah.
everything goes well, I will die mid idea. That's what I've kind of thought out of, and it's just like you're developing it, and hopefully I'll be thinking, like I think with every one of them, oh, this is the best one yet. Every time I do that, and then hopefully if I keel over at that moment, I'll feel pretty satisfied with the life.
Yeah, I hope all of us can be like Morgan Freeman, like talking about like even those little, I don't know, even like the little B movies. I don't even call it that
Sure.
because it's like all them, but like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
one where like the four of them, old guys got out of like the
Yeah, oh
retirement
yeah.
home and yeah, did the heist. Like it was hilarious. And like there's
Yeah.
the little kid who helps Morgan Freeman out. I'm not gonna say why, but yeah, you guys watch it. It's a
Sure.
great movie. But you mentioned tennis, and I have to mention Wimbledon with Kirsten Dunst and Paul Beck.
Sure.
And I because like it's so funny because my friend and I talk about writing a lot, right? And we talk
Yeah.
about movies and so I had some romance authors my first season, and people were like, they were like romance fantasy. So that was before romantasy was a thing. So, but they're like, oh, like there's romance and everything, and I'm like, yeah, that's true. Like Star Wars, right? I love you. I know, like two of the greatest
Yeah.
lines of all time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's romance. So I've like really ruined some people's lives, like pointing it out. But I was like, Wimbledon, I think is a great, great experience, and like the shots were amazing. The tennis was awesome. There's a great
Mm.
love story between the two.
Mm.
Yeah, great sports movie. So yeah, when you said
Mhm.
tennis, I was like, I
It's
get it because that movie was great.
it's so funny because like I did watch Wimbledon and I remember I had only heard negative things about it and I watched it and I
Oh
was like,
wow.
oh, this is kind of fun. Like it's not because I really love the movie Match Point, which is a much darker
Ooh,
movie. And then
yeah.
and I just saw Challengers, which is kind of like somewhere in between the two of them.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
mean Challengers is my favorite of those three, but I think Match Point is great. But like when I put on Wimbledon, I'm like, oh, this is stupid. And I mean that in the best of ways. Like it is silly, it is light, and then
Yeah, yeah.
by the time the movie's ending, you're like, no, this guy better win this tournament,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah.
it's a fun
Yeah.
film. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting because it was like kind of the same thing. Like there were so many movies like that came out relatively the same time, and
Mm,
yeah, I was not expecting it. And then as soon as he loses the first match, sorry, but it's like a 20-year-old movie now.
yeah.
I was like, oh, this is different. And then yeah, it started to go, and yeah, even like the
Sure.
music and stuff. Yeah, I was like, it was like one of then ended up being like one of my favorite movies. I was like really
Oh,
surprised, but
good. Yeah.
it made me think different of sports movies. It made me
Sure.
think different, so I'm glad at the time because it really made me think like, oh, you can really like cross blend genres, right?
Oh,
In
yeah.
movies as well as books. So and at that time, I don't think a lot of people were, doing that. Yeah, Philip K.
Mm,
Dickman, The Golden Compass, and stuff like I don't know, you could find that book in 8 different
mm,
places, right? Genre-wise. But yeah, it really made me think differently about how to write a story and
sure.
elements of different genres. So yeah, I always bring that one up. And I think it was a great movie. So it was really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So what have been some of your biggest takeaways in terms of telling a story through film?
Oh, okay, great. This is a great question. Oh, well, as we mentioned, everything is more visual, and so less is more, less is more, less is more, less is more, less is more. Can't keep saying that enough.
Yeah.
If you can do something without dialogue, do it. If you can do something just by a cut or an edit or something like that, just do it. Every scene has to be doing so many things at once. Efficiency. You only have 2 hours, and that's kind of max these days. People love a
Yeah, yeah.
90-minute movie. There is an entire grammar to it that people don't seem to understand. I think that it can be a little frustrating in that regard. The way you frame something is telling the audience something. The way that you move the camera is telling the audience something. The lens you use is telling the audience something. These are all huge things. It's as if you have a sentence and then you decide you're not going to use the proper punctuation. So you're asking a
Yeah.
question, but you were supposed to put an exclamation point. I think that that's the big thing is learning that there is a grammar to it, and it's something that I didn't really even understand until about halfway into my career when I said like, hey, I really need to make my movies better. They don't look good, and I need to figure out what the reason is. And so I spent just a year, a mix of YouTube and books and reading and just trying to understand why I love the things that I did love. And so it's all about efficiency when it comes to that. It's probably why I don't read a lot of books anymore because I don't have a lot of patience for them because they go at a pace that is much slower than I'm used
Oh,
to.
yeah. Yep.
And so because I want information fast, even a slow burn movie it doesn't burn as slow as a book does. Books take
Yeah.
time and you have to read them over. And I'm reading right now, and I'm trying to retune my ear to it. I can't help but turn it into a film in my head. But yeah, I think that's it. It's visual information, and also the big thing too is there are some things that you have to You have to, feed the audience. However, every opportunity you can give them 2+2, don't give them 4. Just constantly let them do the work. You set everything up and let them solve it. And so you say, here's the equation, and they go, oh, okay, that's how this works together. Okay, here's another one based off of what you just learned. Here's some more, and they go, oh, that's his brother. You don't necessarily always need to come out and say, hey, it's my brother Steve. How are you, Steve? And you don't have to do that. An audience is so much smarter than you think they are. And sometimes you do have to do a little bit of hand holding, but it's typically not. They're so much quicker to pick up things. If someone looks at a person, it's amazing. That's what I love about a camera, is if you change your lens. If you and I are having a conversation, and then I say, oh yeah, then I'm dating this new girl, I'm dating Susie. And then we cut to a close-up of you. Everybody in the world understands that language, and that Susie meant something to you. And that my revealing that piece of information has just changed the perspective of this conversation and what you feel about it. That is a universal language that I think that we just need to make sure that when we're making films, we're expressing that. And so I think that that's the big thing is learning that, and learning to be efficient, and trusting the audience, like I said, with that 2+2 method rather than giving them 4.
I think that makes total sense. I'm watching for the first time The Mentalist. I'm on season 5, like midway through. And it's so funny that you said that, because there was like one episode, I forget which one it was, because I binged so much while I was working recently. I discovered like 3 weeks ago, maybe, and I've just been going. So,
sure.
But like, it's so funny that you mentioned that with shot, because I pay attention to a lot of those things because I really enjoy film, and I used to help like make small ones, like super small ones in high school and stuff. I loved it, and I thought about going to film school. So I pay attention to that stuff, and it's so funny because there was one scene where it's like they shot all 4.5 seasons the same way, right? Like same type of style shots, and then there's one where there's like, here's the main character, and then they just like turn the camera in a totally different way to like behind him, but they did this like so weird, but it was cool. And then there's someone behind him, and I was like, it really made me like, wait, what? Like, and it wasn't just the person, it was how they did the shot. So for me, I think people can learn from that, right? Like different ways to tell a story, right? So like, and there's only so many ways, right, with print, but still I've seen people do some amazing things like that, where all of a sudden you're like, wait, what just happened? So for me, I think always pointing those things out, I think is really good. So but yeah, I like that show because 2+2 doesn't always equal 4.
Sure, sure.
And I don't know how to explain without giving stuff away, but yeah, like if you watch it, and I hadn't watched it at the time because I was like, it was always on like a night where I was like working or something, in high school, but like and in college, but like it was so interesting to me just to see that. I was like, oh, that's really interesting, like how to tell a story this way. So I thought that was cool.
Right.
But I like that. Yeah, I totally get that. I don't like when people tell me 2+2 equals 4, because I like surprises and I like to try and figure it out. So
exactly.
I just want to point out, like, I think that's genius, because for me, that's what I enjoy. If you just give me everything, I get bored. So
we're all little detectives. Like whenever we meet somebody, whenever we read something, whenever we watch something, we're always trying to size up the situation and stuff like that, and figure things out. We like to be surprised at times. But I think that if it's out of left field, immediately people are suspicious, and they're like, no, that you're going against the rules of the world that you've set up. So there is a fine line when it comes to that.
I don't know. I did enjoy all the new Star Wars movies, and I liked the shows and everything, but like, I think personally, as a author and like a writer, I will never get over how Finn should have been a Jedi after The Force Awakens, because like we're doing a thing with Rey, totally fine. Loved her character, thought she was great. But then we did this thing with the other 2 movies that it's like new people were like, no, we don't want that. Oh, we want it back. He's gonna go random. I felt it was the worst use of a character I have seen in a really long time. And like hearing what they had planned and stuff, I'm like, it just, to me, it was like, I'll never get over it, which is fine, because then I think that lends.
It's so interesting to me because my favorite Star Wars movie by a mile, it's not even close, is The Last Jedi. So I find that to be so fascinating because I've heard so many people say the same type of thing. And
I love the
I get
movie.
what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
I love the movie. I actually did enjoy what they were doing. I've read
Sure.
so many of the books and comics like
Oh,
that
I'm
now
sure. Yeah,
aren't
yeah.
like yeah, but
They're
like
not
I
canon,
loved
right?
what they did. I just did not like what they did with
They
this
did with
character.
Finn. I get you.
Yeah, and I'm like
Yeah.
totally okay with her being a Palpatine or whatever, but like
Yeah.
I just thought he was a waste. Like they just had him run around for like no reason, and then I
Especially
don't know,
in the
like
ninth one. Yeah. The ninth one is
yeah,
really, that's a rough movie. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just thought it was like yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I'm like why? Like I just thought that they left his plot kind of behind, and
Yeah.
he was upset, right? And I was upset for
I get
him,
it
and
too.
you
Yeah.
know,
I get it.
yeah, I was like it was interesting, but I also think it's
Mm.
good to see right where it's like for me, like there was a book that a game series and they wrote books on him, right? I don't want to say the author because it's not his fault. I've talked to him about this, but like privately, but like he had a set of three. He was supposed to get another trilogy. The game did not get rebought, right, by this company. So
Mm.
he never got a third, the next trilogy. Well, the third book, if you get rid of the epilogue, it's totally one of the best written character driven stories, trilogies I've read. But this epilogue puts it where like a character, the main character really like gets taken over by a magic item, like a cursed item. The next trilogy was supposed to be like, how they solve it and stuff.
Right. Oh, it's
I
such a
was so
shame. Yeah.
disappointed. Yeah. And it's like, what can you do?
It's not,
So
yeah, it's not his fault. Yeah.
yeah, it's not his fault. Yeah. So but like for me, I'm like, I want to make sure that I end there because if it were me, I'm thinking like I would have actually started it in the next book
Yeah, of
just to
course.
avoid that, which is like I
Right.
totally get because it would have been cool. But yeah, it's
Right.
always interesting how people do things, but I think
Mm.
there's a lot to be learned from there. So
Mm.
what have been some of your favorite characters to film in your projects and why?
Characters, are you talking about like actual characters
Oh,
or are you talking about actors?
oh no, like your actual characters. Like if you wanted to, pick a couple of,
Oh,
projects you've
sure.
done and
Okay, that's fun. Let's see. So, my last movie, there's a couple characters, there's two characters in particular in my last movie. One is that, so my last movie is called Round the Decay, which is a creature
mm,
feature. I really, really love the arc of the main character, which is something I was really, really hyper focused on, and really, really zoned in on, which is a lead character named Kenzie. She's played by Victoria Mirror. She's not worthy of another story because her arc is complete. And so when that happened, I feel satisfied by where she's going. My biggest thing when I start a
got it.
story is where does a character start and where do they end? And what have they learned in that process? I think about wants versus needs, which are the most, I
Mm,
always say if a character wants something, I want them to need the opposite in terms of how to make them the most whole so that they can lose something in the process. And when it came to Kenzie, I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed writing that character. It
mm,
was really it was therapeutic because it was me talking about, Kenzie is simultaneously me and an ex, and the character that
mm,
she's butting heads with in the past is this character Zach, who is also me and this ex. The gross things that we've done to each other or the awful
mm.
things we said to each other, and so purging that was great, and I like the character. And then I have a character in that movie as well. His name is Monroe, and he's like a monster hunter, the standard monster hunter. However, he's quite bad at it, and so he talks a great game. He's played by Damien Maffei, who's known for being in horror movies, like the
Oh,
Strangers
cool.
movies. He's one of the guys in the Strangers movies, and
Oh,
he,
sweet.
yeah, and he's really,
It's a great
really,
movie.
yeah, yeah. He's Strangers too.
Yeah.
The one with the whole pool scene. He's the one doing the
Oh,
stabbing in
that's
the pool
cool.
scene. Yeah, and so
That's awesome.
Damien is really, really funny. Just because he's got such a weird um he's got a great voice and he's got a very dry sense of humor, and it really comes off in the character. He's a character that we've talked about, like he could show up in lots of different horror movies fighting a
Yeah.
monster. He could always show up and kind of bungle it and it would be kind of great. He's not quite to the level of being like silly slapstick of like Ash from Evil Dead,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he's like a degree off of it. And so
Yeah,
I
that's
really
funny.
like that. And then there's a sci-fi. I made a movie called Carolina Shag, which is the movie that starts as a sci-fi romance and turns into a Jackie Chan fight scene.
That's awesome.
There's a character in it. Her name is Jade Jarrett, and the our main character meets her and immediately falls in love with her at a bar, and then some bounty hunters in the bar recognize her, and the huge fight scene takes place as they try to keep her from exiting. She's a character it's only a 25-minute movie. I dropped the ball in a lot of areas that I wish I hadn't, especially at the opening of the movie. But I feel really good about what we did in the fight sequence for a smaller budget film. I mean, smaller budget. It was a $50,000 short,
Yeah.
but she's a really fun character, a character that I started thinking of all the different worlds that she could be in. She felt like she was. I don't know if you've ever played something. I don't know if you're a big video game guy, but Tales from the Borderlands. I really love
Oh,
that
yeah, yeah.
game, and
Yeah,
this
that's a good
character
game.
named Fiona in it that
Oh,
she
yeah, yeah.
really that she really reminds
Oh,
me of.
that's cool.
I love like tough con artist women in a sci-fi landscape, and obviously that movie's super inspired by both Firefly and Cowboy Bebop. And so I'd
Nice.
love to dive back into those worlds and play around with those type of characters. That's for sure.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
super cool. Yeah, I like what was like Val's wife, right? For
Yeah.
she's like the
Oh,
con woman. She like comes up twice. Yeah.
Saffron. Yeah,
Hey,
yeah. She's
Saffron. I don't know why I was like
Christina
that my
Hendricks.
blanket. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's awesome. She's so fun.
I loved her in Mad Men, and yeah,
Oh,
she's
excellent.
brilliant.
She's excellent.
Yeah, I actually think of her a lot with this one character that I'm like want to write for like a short story, and I'm like, because I always do that, right? I just like I started in comics, started in like writing like screenplays and stuff, so I too can't help but think of it as a
No,
movie.
sure.
So I always attach, actors or actresses or people, that I can visually see. And then, certain mannerisms maybe from certain movies or TV shows and stuff. Because I think that's the easiest way,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because you said too, that's what we've researched, that's what we've known, right? Like, so it's like
It's
almost like a secondary education. So,
I mean, oftentimes it's, I still think that if you want to, the first thing I tell people, if, because I talk to a lot of younger filmmakers and they'll be like, oh, what do I do? How do I get into it? Watch movies, watch everything. Just don't stop watching stuff because they're going to give you at least broad templates of what
oh,
these
yeah.
characters are. And like you just said, you think of a Saffron-like character in your thing. And then what happens is as you start to develop the story and what's going on around her, if she's the lead character, if she's a side character, whatever it may be, she inevitably becomes not Saffron, very not Saffron. But the point is, like, you just took a type that you love in a story and you said, how do I put my spin on it? So,
Yeah.
no, I completely agree. I think you start with the template character. We only speak in movie language when it comes to my directors of photography and my editors. So we come up and be like, yeah, no, it's like that scene in Pumpkinhead. And they're like, oh, okay, I get it. All right, but what if we have the shot like it's in this movie? It's a lot of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Well, that's awesome. So I know we're winding down here on questions, but this has been great. We had a lot of good things in between. Uh, I had somebody recently like, you gonna send me more questions? I'm like, nah, I just like to think of on the fly.
Yeah.
I was like, it's just
Yeah.
so
Sure.
much easier. Like,
Yeah.
I tried one time for somebody, and like I'm just a conversationalist. So
Yeah.
like
Same.
you'll say
Yeah.
things, I'm like, oh, that's really cool, and go that way. I just felt like I was so stuck, and I couldn't go, routes I
Oh, I think
wanted. So
you're doing it the right way. Yeah, you're feeling it out, right? Yeah,
so much easier that way. And
sure.
it's funny because it was like my first season, and yeah, the person it was like they were really nervous. Now I've had so many people. It's like I had somebody yesterday. I won't mention, but like it was like their first time on a podcast, and I'm like, I like it when I can fly the plane for somebody smoothly when it's their first time, and then land it with like, you know what? Do you know anybody else I could be? I'm like, yeah. So like I feel like I did my job there.
Right.
So
There you
it
go.
was super cool. I was like, we got
Oh,
another one. Like somebody else is
perfect.
in the podcast game now. So
There
it
you
was
go.
super cool.
Great.
But if you could make a film in any genre or franchise and money was no object, which would it be and why?
It's a great one. Um, so I'm going to give you several answers.
That's fine. That's totally fine.
I have a script that I started writing a long time ago, and it has gone through different versions as I've changed. The script has changed, but it's a fantasy film that takes place in a post-apocalyptic fantasy type of world.
Oh, sweet.
It's called The Crystals and the Corn Girl. I've been trying
like
to
that.
get that. Yeah, I've been trying to get it off. It's about a mute girl and she basically enlists this shadow creature to help her revive her dead father figure. And she goes across this landscape, and there's these three crystals that have these different powers, and the world has been like ravaged by a sickness, and at the same time it's kind of turned back into tribal warfare. I
Mm.
really love that story. I mean, like when I reread it now, it's like I always go like, oh, I got to do another draft of this. It needs money. It feels like it needs big money. When I say big money, I mean big buy. I could do it for a couple million, but can't do it at that $300,000 range. I'd love
Yeah.
to make that. I'd love to get back and do a very, very simple dirtbag crime noir. I love that. I love like Blood Simple. I'm a big Coen Brothers fan.
Mm.
And so I love stuff like that, something that's really down to earth, really, really gritty, really minimalistic, not quite to the level of like No Country, because that's a much
Okay.
more cat and mouse movie, but
Yeah,
something
yeah.
I love inept criminals. That's kind of my favorite thing. I grew up with a lot of like, I mean, I didn't grow up in a rough area or anything like that, but I grew up in a situation where everybody, took pride in the fact that they call themselves trash, and I
Mm.
think that I'd like to do character stuff about that. I have a tennis movie that I really want to tell. It's about a retired tennis player, and dynamics with him and his brother, and about the family dynamic there. I want to shoot that in Wales, just because my
Oh,
mom
that's
lives in
cool.
Wales. And then the big one is
Awesome.
yeah, and like I've been playing that one's called Shale, which is the layer underneath on a clay court. And
Oh, that's
that
awesome.
yeah, I haven't been able to quite put that one together. It just ends up being too long because it ends up being very talky. Trying to finally develop that. But then if I could get into a series, I'd love to make a Final Fantasy. I really want to adapt to Final Fantasy. I love the Final Fantasy games, especially 6 through 10, with 10 being
Mm.
my favorite. I'd love to do like a TV series of War of the Lions or something like that. I
Oh,
did.
yeah.
Yeah, and I did have before the Obi-Wan TV show, I did have an Obi-Wan idea where it was Obi-Wan coming out of like a one last job type of thing.
Nice.
And it was like Obi-Wan meets Star Wars meets the Seven Samurai. And so
Oh, that's dope.
I really, really wanted to do that. And then the Obi-Wan show came up and I did not care for that show. Um,
I
and
wanted to because I love that they were doing it.
I
And
said,
like, yeah, there were characters and there were things I was like, there's like gems in here, but overall, I really wasn't satisfied.
you
Yeah.
McGregor is really, really good though. He does such a
Amazing. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
and that's
he's
what I was
amazing. Not his
yeah.
fault at all.
Yeah,
Horrible.
and
I didn't like the overall story. There were
yeah.
things where I was like, why would you do that? Yeah, that's like, but that's like you said earlier, right? They just want to make money. They don't really care what you as
Yeah.
fans, that's the problem recently, I think. So
Yeah, I agree. And so I'd love to do something like that. And like I just said, I've got a Wolverine noir that I'm I'm
that's
working on
awesome.
in my head. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different things that are there. So yes, one of those 5 or 6 I just mentioned.
Oh yeah, no, that's super cool. Well, I always think about that. I don't know if you saw the new. It's so funny. Like I've seen so many people not like the newest Power Rangers, but then as soon as somebody goes, or it's like Batman or Superman, right?
Mm.
I was not expecting to enjoy the new Superman movie as much as I did. I
I
had such a
loved it.
blast.
I
Yeah, I loved
loved
it.
it.
I
Yeah, I
loved
think it
it.
was so good.
Yeah, I'm like my buddies and I are going to because my one friend didn't get to see it because he was slammed this summer. My other friend had seen it before that week, and then I was like set to go out in between my jobs, and my wife's like, "I'm gonna get the little guy. Like, don't worry about it." I was like, "Cool." And now she's like, "What are you gonna do?" I was like, "I'm gonna go see a movie. Like, I'm gonna go see Superman." And my buddy got stuck at work. My other friend got a new job interview for a new job that he got. But yeah, I was like, I'm gonna go. My wife's like, yeah, go. Like, get some popcorn, whatever. I went. I had a blast. I was like
So
so
good.
surprised. It was
I was
campy. It was comicky. It was hopeful. It was like
I
I'm
love
not.
James Gunn. I love James Gunn. I really do. I
He
love the
just
Three
does such an
Guardians.
amazing job. I
Yeah.
was worried because I was like, what's going on? But like yeah, but like with some of the pictures and stuff. But yeah, like I was so surprised once it was all put together. I was like, this is really cool. So
He really wears his heart on his sleeve, and I really
yeah.
appreciate that about him. And I remember as I was driving home from the movies, I just had the biggest, dumbest grin on my face the whole time. I couldn't
Mhm.
stop thinking about because, like you said, the movie is so hopeful.
Yeah.
And it's I I don't like to talk ill of other filmmakers, and I think Zack
Yeah.
Snyder seems like he's a good man, a very nice guy. But I really, really do not like his Superman movies. I think they are like the antithesis of what a Superman movie should be. So I'm so glad
Yeah.
that we got this
Yep.
really bright,
Yep.
fun, weird movie. You know?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's what
I
it's about.
get like Batman's supposed to be a darker because it's like that's
Sure.
like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
themes. Well, I'm a huge DC guy, like huge,
yeah.
like original comics. Like I have way too many, and like the story
Sure.
arcs and stuff. Those were what I like. Even like oh my gosh, Our Man, right? Like how many people know who Our Man is, right? Or The
Never heard of them.
Spectre,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
or The Question, right? Like
Sure,
Sandman, like their version, right? Like there's so many. I'm like, I wanted to draw and then produce films for
sure.
DC, right? Because of those characters. And it was just wild to me that yeah, like that's what you went with Superman. And I loved Henry Cavill, like don't get me wrong,
Oh,
but
he's
as
great. He's
soon
great.
yeah, but as soon as Kevin Costner, right, was like, yeah, like he's like, yeah, like the things he was saying, I was like, this is not Jonathan Kent. This is
Yeah,
not Jonathan Kent.
the
And then
don't.
I was like,
Yeah, when he puts
yeah,
the
like
hand out in
don't,
the
yeah.
tomato,
And
it's
that
terrible.
I could see Jonathan Kent doing, but it was like this the talk beforehand
Right.
ticked me off. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I just was like, is anybody really gonna see him when if he goes and saves you? Like I'm
Right.
like, he's really
Right.
fast, And it's like there's a
Right.
tornado coming. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just like
I
it
agree.
was just like, what are we doing? And then
Yeah.
the third, my last straw was when he snaps Zod's neck. And
Yeah.
I totally get whatever, but I was like, this isn't Superman. And
Yeah.
I was
I
just
agree.
left with such, yeah, it was so I love this one. I was up here. That speech that he gives to Lex, I was like, yeah, you
So
got
good. Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I've
Absolutely.
listened to it like 18 times
Same.
the last
Same.
couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've watched
Yeah.
videos of James Gunn
Yeah.
and him figuring it out together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
can't wait. Yeah. But like I was mentioning, like, so we're all coming together so my friend can watch it, but we're gonna do like a movie afternoon because we're all old men now. Sorry.
There you
So
go.
my wife's gonna take my son at some point. We're gonna like do
Watching it
that and
together.
like yeah, do lunch and stuff. Yeah, see it on
Yeah.
the big
Let's
screen.
go.
Yeah, I'm like
I
super,
love
super
it.
excited about that. But that's super cool. Well, I gotta say, movies sound awesome. So and I'll get the titles and everything from you and we can put them for everybody. You got me sold, so I'm really excited. I love films like these, so especially within the genres and stuff. But I'm a huge crime noir fan. I love mysteries. Like I want to do like that in a fantasy setting,
Yeah.
with characters. I have like like a CSI version, or like Chicago Fire if you intermix those with like a fire elementalist, kind of like Harry Dresden, but he's like not so good. But he has like essentially he has certain powers with elementals that like fire elementals. So like he's the one that if you are an arson in a fantasy city, he'll come in and he'll
Sure.
inspect everything.
That's
And
interesting.
it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
mystery and noir through there, right? And
Sure.
like a police procedural. So I'm like really struggling to get everything. But at one point, all the Rubik's Cube's gonna fit, and I think it'll be really cool.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
love
love
stuff
that.
like that. But I love
Great.
like watching like crime noir or mysteries or police procedural. So yeah, I think it's cool.
Right.
Well, yeah, we'll check those out. We'll put those in the description. I'll be checking those out. I'm actually gonna start doing reviews for movies such as yours for the channel and stuff, and
Sure.
like TV shows and episodes and stuff. That's another thing I'm setting aside for the spring. So once I get those, I do the same thing for like book reviews for people. I'm so
Yeah.
behind, but I'm gonna start just popping through for them the
Okay.
last like
Great.
two seasons, and I'll kind of go backwards.
Great.
But yeah, I'll put all the reviews up. So I'll send you those. I'll tag you in like each one after I get them done and stuff.
Perfect.
Um, It'd be cool for me because I'll get to. I love the director's cut. I love hearing these things first because I do the same thing with books now. Because
Sure.
hearing that once I watch things for of yours, like I don't know, it's like almost like I'm not just an audience member. I'm also like a writer and like taking it apart as a professional. It has improved my like enjoyment so
Sure.
much with certain comics, books, and things like that. So I'm like really excited.
Sure. Hell yeah.
But yeah, love to have you back in the future. We can talk, about, next film, things like that. We can always set up. I did a launch party for the crew from Breaking Infinity.
Okay.
They had it, yeah, like we had it set up where we recorded. We could always like do it live or something. So I think that'd be super, super cool. So if you and the crew want to get together,
Yeah. Yeah.
anybody, bring them on. Be
We love
super
that.
fun. Yeah, that'd
Cool.
be super cool. So just leave you there with that last one. Do you have any news, updates, current projects, anything like that you can share with us?
Yeah. Oh, great. That's perfect. Obviously follow us on all our socials and stuff like that, which is, I'm director Adam Newman. Like you said, they're in the show notes or whatever. But Dreamscape Productions is the company that I work for. The next movie is Tales of the Dying Daylight is the name of the movie, which is the fantasy film that we're doing. It's a cozy fantasy film. Think about like if you mixed Princess Bride with Cheers, and it's kind of like
Cool.
that. Yeah, so
That's
it's
awesome.
that's the movie we're working on. We have a giant banquet coming up in January. So January 31st, it's like medieval times meets Ren Fair. So it's 4-course meal with vendors, entertainment, like comedians, archery, um,
Sweet.
yeah, it's a contortionist, all this different types of stuff that'll be there with
That's cool.
appearances. Um, it is a big event in Worcester, Massachusetts for that one day. All the money goes towards the film. It's a big fundraiser
Oh,
to
cool.
help us gain some money for Tales of the Dying Daylight, which we are shooting at September. I'd say go and follow it wherever you are if you like anything fantasy related or you just like movies that want to give you a big warm hug. It is perfect for you. I love low stakes fantasy. I love stuff where it's not about the end of the world. It's just about a found family dealing with
Yeah,
what
yeah,
they're
yeah.
dealing with. I love Baldur's Gate 3. It's one of my favorite games of all time. But what I do love is when you're wandering through Baldur's Gate and you stop off in a tavern, and then when you leave, my thought is always, why can't I just hang out with the characters in the tavern? And
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
and that's what this story is. It's as if you stopped in a tavern on your way through an adventure. So and you just stayed there. So yeah,
Oh,
that's our next movie. We're casting for it now. You'll probably, if you do follow us, you'll start to see that we have a couple names attached, which is really, really good. So yeah, we're really, really stoked about that. I hope everybody follows it and gets excited
sounds
for
awesome.
it. And, so shooting in September, which means 6 months after that, we're probably good for our theater run. Our movies get into theaters, which we're pretty
Yep,
excited about. We'll probably do a
that's
road
awesome.
show. So keep up to date as to where that movie will be playing, and hopefully everybody can support it in some way, whether it be a share, a like, a follow, talking about it, talking about it, talking about it. That's what I love about podcasts like this is we get to talk indie filmmakers, indie book writers, anything. We get to talk about the stuff that we make. It's so
Oh, yeah.
hard to make these things. It's even harder to get people to read or watch them. And so, yeah, please like, share, all that type of stuff, all those things we're doing.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, send me anything. We'll post in the group. You can
I
keep sending
appreciate
me.
that.
Yeah, well, I could. I always. That goes to anybody. If you have something like, it's so easy for me now. I have so many systems after 5 years set up.
Yeah,
I just have like a whole library of notes on my phone, and I'll just be like, "Oh, Adam needs that. Yep." And
I
I have
appreciate that.
all my links ready to go, and I can just change a few things, and I just boom, boom, boom. It takes me 15 minutes. I'll share it on 6 different socials and
I
stuff and my
appreciate that.
website. So yeah.
Well, thank you.
And then yeah, yeah, we can whenever you're ready, let me know for the link. Is it going to be on Kickstarter? You guys just raising money through another site or?
So our first goals. So right now we already have money committed, which is great, but from private investors, we have a good chunk coming that way. The next step will be getting that fundraiser going, seeing where we're at from there. After that, we still have a couple more privates that we'll hit, and then we are having conversations about potentially doing something like a Kickstarter. I have done one in the past. They were successful, which is great. Kickstarters are awesome. It'll depend on where we're at that point.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Obviously, private investors are a little bit easier in some regards.
Yeah,
But
for sure, definitely. Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah,
crowdfunding is always nice too because you get fans. And what the biggest
yeah.
thing is, if you can get
Followers, yeah.
if you can get a good foundation before a movie even gets made, you're really starting to build something. So we want to find any way we can to interact with more people who want fantasy movies to be on the big screen. And so
Yeah.
we're definitely considering that as an option as well.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, just let me know at any point. We can always, like, if we're releasing before you guys are ready, or whatever,
Sure.
just let me know. We can always update, and I have no problem updating. I've done that for a few people, like show notes and stuff, so that
Oh,
way,
appreciate that. Yeah.
yeah, and then we can always like resurface this interview, between
Yeah.
January and September and do all the shorts and stuff. But I'd love to have you on in the future just to help with like the
Oh, yeah.
advertising and stuff. And like I said, you could bring the crew on. We could do a dinner party or a live launch party, or
I
we
can
can
tell
do just
you,
about anything. So
we've done that with the actors before, where we've jumped on
awesome,
podcasts all together.
sweet.
Absolutely, 1000% would be in. I love, as you can tell, I love talking, so I'm all for
Oh,
it.
I love anytime I can get, yeah, like anybody from film, TV. I've had audio narrators, actors on here. It's always good, I think, to get, like I said, like different perspectives. And I don't know, you gave me an amazing idea because
Oh,
for an
good.
anthology or a series of short stories, because now I'm like that like sitting in a tavern just makes total sense. So now I'm thinking you got a
Mm.
bunch of adventurers, right? And then they're just chilling. You're in the tavern, and then everybody goes into their story, right? And I
Yeah,
think that's just so cool. So I'm gonna have to
sure.
do that now
Yeah, let's
because
go. I love
I
it.
love D&D, and like
Yeah, of
I'm
course,
a
of
huge
course.
D&D or well
Yeah.
whatever like RPG
Yep.
tabletop like whatever.
Yep.
And I have some dark fantasies with like D&D crews of like at games we've actually played and stuff like incorporating in and that just sounds so cool now. So I'm gonna have
Well,
to
thank
do
you.
that at some point. That's a really
Yeah,
great
I
idea.
love that.
That's
Awesome.
awesome. Cool. Well, if there's anything else you need, Adam, just let me know. But I want to just remind our audience, make sure you check out Adam and his company's link right below in the description and where you're watching or listening to this podcast. Speaking of followers and help, if you guys could hit that subscribe button, I can't tell you, like the more subscribers I have, it pushes us up into the algorithm. More people are finding us now. It's really like more people are finding people like Adam, so it's super helpful. I have so many people from season 1 and 2 that like before our YouTube channel kind of hit that they haven't really gotten seen as much. So I'd love that people are going back through. So if you guys could, after you watch this, please go down in the description, follow Adam, check out everything, give them follows, right? And then if you could at the end, just click that subscribe. That would be great because I'm trying to get everybody who we've interviewed, seen more. So that would be great. We're trying to hit that 1K ceiling. Adam, thank you so much. This has been absolutely terrific. Love talking film and craft and anything that you're doing. Like I said, gave me some great ideas. So this is why I do it. So
I
it's
love
really
it.
cool.
Yeah. Thanks so
Yeah.
much for
So
having me.
yeah. Anytime you guys got something or like I said, updates or anything like that, you just hit me up. But yeah, I'd love to schedule something with you guys in the spring. That's kind of why, like I said, do a schedule that way. That just sounds absolutely amazing and super fun. So let me know in any way, shape, and form. A lot of times people come on and they're like, "Oh, I already asked Dan for something, but like we want to continue the community and help people build." So I'll send you the Facebook podcast group if anybody else wants to join. It's the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Fanatics podcast on Facebook. You can always find me, Daniel Coolbaugh, or my author page, Daniel Coolbaugh, and then I could send you the link that way as well. It's also in the show notes. So, but yeah, Adam, if you guys need anything at all, please let me know. I will just get that stuff out there. I'm pretty good
Will
at
do.
it. But other than that, I hope you have a great rest of the day, and we'll talk to you soon. Sound good?
Yep. Thanks so much.
All right. Yeah. Perfect.